generation breaking through despair. I hear a generation full of faith declare, and our song it will be. Out of the darkness we will rise and sing. Sing with me. He is faithful, He is glorious, and He is Jesus, and all my hope is in Him. He is freedom, He is healing right now. He is hope, joy, love, and peace, and life. Seen a light like the break of dawn, giving blind men sight and letting lame men walk. I see a generation with resurrection light. We are a generation filled with the power of Christ, and our song it will be. That's right. Out of the darkness we will rise and sing. Is faithful, is glorious, and He is Jesus, and all my hope is in Him. He is freedom, He is healing right now. He is hope and joy, love and peace and life. Lord, we thank you for the price that you paid for us, Lord. Yes, He has paid. He has paid the highest price. He has proven His great love for us. And we will praise Him with our lives and proclaim our love for Him. See, He has paid. He has paid the highest price, and He has proven His great love for us. And we will praise. So we will praise Him with our lives and proclaim our love for Him. Well, Lord, we proclaim and proclaim our love for Him.
I want to talk this morning about not paying attention, which should get your attention. Or you see signs and you misunderstand them. Max Jones, no talking, please. That's what he's an ex-officer, a police officer, so I get to get him on that one because I want to tell a story about a police officer, Jenny as well, who he noticed a car going really slow on the expressway, and he's concerned about it, so he turns on his lights and pulls the driver over, and approaching the car, he notices that there are 5 old ladies, 2 in the front seat and 3 in the back, wide-eyed and white as ghosts. The driver, obviously confused, says to him, "Officer, I don't understand. I was doing exactly the speed limit. What seems to be the problem?" "Ma'am," the officer replies, "you weren't speeding, but you should know that you were driving slower than the speed limit. Driving slower than the speed limit can also be a danger to other drivers." "Slower than the speed limit? No, sir. I was doing the speed limit exactly 22 miles an hour, the old woman said a bit proudly. the state police officer, trying to contain a chuckle, explained to her that 22 was the route number, not the speed limit. A bit embarrassed, the woman grinned and thanked the officer for pointing out her error. But before I let you go, ma'am, I have to ask, is everyone in the car okay? These women seem awfully shaken, and they haven't muttered a single peep the whole time, the officer asked. Oh, they'll be all right in a minute, officer. We just got off Route 119. Sometimes there are signs that we misinterpret. I want to talk today about a sign that's all through the Bible. It's called beware. Beware comes from the word be wary of something. And it has to do with things like to watch, to guard, to restrain, to defend, to literally be cautious about something in the right way, not paranoid, but aware. You see the signs, beware of dog. How many think twice when they see a sign before they go into the backyard that says, beware of dog? Buyers, beware. Go to the beach, beware of rip currents. Beware is a warning that vigilance is required. We're told to be of sober spirit, but we're not being of sober spirit and aware does not mean you're sad or you're religious, but you're aware of what's going on around you. We're to watch over our hearts with all diligence, and we're to be on the alert to stand firm in the faith, to act like men and be strong. So if you'd bring up Colossians 3, 10. Let's try 10. Or whatever you got on Colossians. Earth to stage. All right, how about if I bring it up? This is in Colossians. And most of you are familiar with it. Oh, there it is. I want Colossians 3:8, please. That's it. Wow, getting off to a bad start here. Me. But now also you put them all aside. No, that's not it. How about Colossians 2:8? That's what I meant. Colossians 2:8 says, see to it that no one takes you captive. Now, whose responsibility is that? Kid, high school, is that your parents' responsibility? To not be taken captive? Whose responsibility is it to see to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary principles of this world, rather than according to Christ? That verse is a statement to all of us that each one of us individually is responsible not to be taken captive. Not my wife, not my husband, not my pastor, but me. I need to know what I'm forming as my own worldview, what I believe that, as we were in worship this morning, I told the Lord, I said, I am so confident today, Lord. I said, you are the God of the whole earth. I mean, what are we worried about? He is omniscient, omnipresent. He knows the end from the beginning. And as truly as he lives, all the earth is going to be filled with the glory of God. It may not be on the news right now. I'll tell you what, if you and I had lived in 1941 and the first part of 42, we would have thought the war was over. England was going to surrender to Germany. Had not Winston Churchill stood up to those men that wanted to capitulate because Germany was so strong, and Japan, just after Pearl Harbor, took over all of Southeast Asia. And it was over. Listen, we are in a process. Wherever we are in life, we're in a process. It's never over, as Yogi Berra said, until it's over. I want to read out of Deuteronomy 8, one of the things that we really need to be aware of, which is a hedge about with thorns, to build protection, to guard, protect. It's to be circumspect. He says, beware, be on your guard that you don't forget. Now, I got to say, that's a big one. Forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his ordinances and his statutes, which I am commanding you today. Let's continue on. Otherwise, when you have eaten and are satisfied and have built good houses and lived in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold multiply, and all that you have multiplies, then your heart will become proud, and you'll forget the Lord, your God, who brought you out from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. He led you through a great and terrible wilderness with his fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground where there was no water. He brought water to you out of the rock of flint. In the wilderness he led you. He fed you manna, rather, which your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and that he might test you to do good for you in the end. Otherwise you may say in your heart, my power and the strength of my hand have made me this wealth. But you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who is giving you power to make wealth, that he may confirm his covenant which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. And it shall come about, if you ever forget the Lord your God and go after other gods and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day that you will surely perish. It's a very sobering warning from the Lord. Many times I meet people, and sometimes their whole story is they just forgot about the Lord. Yeah, I was in youth group when I was a kid. Yeah, I was a junior ambassador when I was a kid. Yeah, I did this when I just got off track. Yeah, we forgot. Ladies, are you okay if your husband forgets your anniversary this year? Kids, how about if your parents forget your birthday this year? Just ignore it. How about if your mom forgets to feed you? There's no food in the house, and you say, Mom, there's no food, and she says, stop your complaining. Forgetting is a very easy thing to do, and that's why remembering is so rewarding to us when someone remembers something for us. So one of the great maladies of human nature is our forgetfulness of good and the remembrances of bad. It's so hard. Some of you have had really difficult lives, broken families, broken marriages, deaths, disease. And those things stick to you like Velcro, but the good that God has given you, the future he's given you, is sort of poo-pooed a little bit. Down here, yeah, it's good, and we end up going through life looking at a rearview mirror often. Listen, the future is a blank slate, but what are you going to do with it? What slate are you looking back, or are you looking forward in the right way? So we don't want to be in a place where I did it. My power, my strength, my goodness made all this wealth. And wealth here could be anything, your status, your reputation, how well people think of you, or the way the Lord's opened doors for you. When doors open, as a believer, it's the Lord doing something for you, not your cleverness, not my cleverness. When we have success, we're to remember him and to beware that we can forget him. That's why it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he'll direct your paths. Because many of you are successful and will be more successful. But then, is it clothed in humility? Is it the Lord did this in us and through us? So the first one is beware of forgetting. Say that with me. It's so easy to do. Okay. The second thing, go to Matthew 6:1, if you would, please. Beware, here's another one, of practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your heavenly Father who is in heaven. So there's another trap. It's really big in church. I've had to go through this. Sometimes I've written something in the bulletin thanking somebody, and I didn't thank somebody else. And they got very upset. They wanted their name in the bulletin. I said, now I just go generic. I says, thank you, everybody that helped. And I never offend anybody. But if I say, thank you, Susie and Joni, and I forgot Mary and Jackie said, well, didn't we help? Yeah, of course you did. You weren't left out. It just was the other person might have been the leader or whatever. But the point is, you will get noticed by people. Jesus said that the world will know that he's been sent by our love one for another. You get noticed for your love. But sometimes you will be overlooked. But there's a thing in I don't know what it is about in Christianity where we want to be seen, practicing your righteousness before men to be noticed. Just practice your righteousness and the notice will be there, but not to gain notice. That's a trap. Another one in Matthew 7:15 is beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. It's something to watch out for. Sometimes we believe charismatic people because they're charismatic in the sense of they have a lot of charisma, they're tremendous orators, or they may even function in signs and wonders. They may have an answer for your problems. They may draw great crowds. And I'm not saying that people that do that are all false prophets, but just beware of what you're doing and what you're and not paranoid, but aware of these things. In Luke 12:15, he says, beware and be on your guard against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist in possessions. Greed is dangerous. In Timothy, it calls it idolatry. Raise your hand if you're greedy. Not a single person. Okay. Oh, thank you, Dave. I knew no one. Turn to someone and ask him, do you think I'm greedy? Just ask him. Of course not. You're a Christian. You're not greedy. I just like nice things, and I'm being a good steward of nice things, and I'm not greedy. Gosh, what are you saying? Greed is really tricky. Not always about things. It can be greedy for a lot of different things. Why do you think people in the hood kill each other over a pair of tennis shoes? Is a human life worth more than Air Jordans being killed? Greed, coveting, it gets in the heart. Doesn't have to be $1 billion. So we got to be aware of these things. And then beware In Matthew 16:6, he says, beware of the Pharisees, who were proud and legalistic. They tended to be condescending, judgmental, presumptuous. They were arrogant about other people. They actually thought they were better than other people. So do we, I think I'm better than you? Are you better because you're holier? Am I? How do we see other people? The more I get into this message, the more I'm just asking God, help me. Help me. All these things are there in all of us. So the issue here is, how do we deal with this? How do we're to be on guard, but the most important thing that you and I will ever do in God is love. If you're doing something that's not with love, it's not really worth a whole lot. Dads, you're working hard for your family, but it's got to be for love, for the love of those children. And he says, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you, that you would also love one another. By this all men will know that you're my disciples, by your love one for another. That's John 13:34. Too often we want to be loved more than we want to love. It is by our love that the world will know that Jesus has come. For me, it's the leanness of my love that comes the source of problems. We're going to have communion to say. I want to raise your hand if you've been complaining about anything in the last week. Can I see your hands? Ooh, man, this church is not sanctified. It's not glorified. It's not. So we got a bunch of gripers in here. You're just a bunch of gripers is what you are. And so, oh yeah, he said love everybody. Yeah, like love that person? Right. To love your political opponent? No way. To love your enemy. You might be too spiritual to have any enemies, but you may be an enemy because you are spiritual, and you're to love them. It's powerful stuff. We're commanded to love, and we're to let the love of the brethren continue. Love is a choice. It's not a feeling. Feeling can accompany love. But when you love someone objectively, you're not coming from an emotional place. Touchy-feely, puppy dog. Come here, I love you. You are just making a choice to love the unlovely. To love that maybe even hurt us. I've often said it's the people that gave me the most trouble that I probably have the greatest debt of gratitude, because they caused me to dig deep, to find a place in God rather than to take my own anger and revenge. If you've ever done revenge on someone, I'd like to meet with you afterwards and you tell me how fulfilling that was. It's an empty pursuit. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Every gift we have will one day be gone. The only eternal, perpetual grace is love. There is no gift of love. It's a fruit of the Spirit. Did you hear what I just said? There's no gift of love. I need that gift. You know, it's not a gift. It's a fruit, and it comes through picking up your cross, denying yourself, and following Him wherever you are. It comes from losing your life in order to find it. We're to walk in love on a daily basis. And it says in Colossians that love is the perfect bond of unity. And again in Corinthians, he says the love of Christ controls us. We can love this morning because we are forgiven. What have you been forgiven for? Oh, you know, Kevin, all the stuff. No, I don't know. What have you been forgiven for? It's funny how sometimes we generalize it, like, what have you been forgiven for? Well, I've been forgiven because I'm a sinner. What kind of sins did you do? What did you do? What happened? I have been forgiven for hurting that person. I have been forgiven for hurting myself. Lord, you've forgiven me as far as the east is from the west. And things come to mind. When you have communion this morning, you are a forgiven person. Forgiven because you've asked for it. And he gives it generously. You are forgiven if you tap into the Lord. If you don't, you're not. You want to hold it? You want to hold your anger? Then how can you ask for forgiveness yourself? Forgive us our trespasses just as we forgive those who trespass against us. I'm not saying forgiveness is easy. And some things that have happened in your life, you will not be able to forgive without the grace of God. It takes you and the Lord doing this. I promise you, if you do it in sincerity, God will give you something beyond where you are right now. Forgiveness, like love, is always a choice, 7 times 70. We are to forgive just as we have been forgiven completely. It may be you need to forgive God. You may need to forgive me. I may have hurt you and I don't even know it. Or someone close to you, a family member. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. For everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. The one who does not love does not know God, for God is love. That is not just an attribute of God. It is his very nature is love. You know, we're told not to let the sun go down on our anger, lest we give the devil an opportunity, because I get it. We're self-righteous. I'm mad. I deserve this. I don't deserve that. I'm mad. You shouldn't have done that. You go through all these things, but ultimately you're only left with one option that's going to work. It's to ask forgiveness or give forgiveness. I pray I never do anything that hurts anybody in this room badly, unless it's for God's good or something like that. But but if all I can do is ask forgiveness, if I have it. It was no intention to hurt you, but it did hurt you. I was loading the gun and accidentally it went off. Someone was killed. I point the gun and shoot you, you're killed. You're killed both ways. The intentions of my heart were not to kill, but it happened. We need forgiveness from each other, and from the Lord first, and then from each other. Because when I say beware lest you forget, where did this whole thing start? With me, it started with forgiveness. God, will you forgive me for my sins? Take over my life. Restore me. How can I forget his forgiveness? Oh, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? That which you began in the spirit, now you're being perfected in the flesh. Go back. Remember at the table. Do this in memory of me. For as often as you do it, you proclaim the Lord's death, which is your life. Incidentally, Satan is incapable of love. God's nature is love. Satan's nature, there's no love in Satan. He's a liar, thief, and a murderer, and has been from the beginning. The only thing he can do is he counterfeits love. And he uses deception, he appeals to our own fleshly desires. He makes you feel like what you're doing is okay when it's not. He'll do whatever it takes to keep you away from the Lord and take you out of the the journey with Him. Love has to be real. So I'm going to close with this morning with a couple of thoughts about love before we come to the table. Number one, love requires vulnerability. No one wants to get hurt, but so often we're way too closed and defensive. What are you defending? No one wants to hurt anybody. But there's release and openness and walking in the light. So it requires vulnerability. Vulnerability means capable of being wounded. A guy came into my office many years ago and he says, I'm never going to be vulnerable again. I said, that's too bad because you're never going to grow again. Once you draw the curtain, put the thing down, say, I'll never, not going to happen to this guy again. Fool me once, fool me twice, that whole deal. I get it, but it always comes back to love, forgiveness, and vulnerability. Vulnerability is not a feminine or a masculine trait. It's a human trait. Secondly, love means risk. When you love someone, it is not always reciprocal. Again, years ago I did a sermon about fathers. And this guy that was in our church at the time really was moved by the message and called his father. He hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And the father picked up the phone on the other end, and the father, he said, hi, Dad, it's such and such. What do you want? After 20 years. And then he said, no, Dad, I'm just calling to tell you, it's Father's Day, you're my dad, and I want to extend whatever I can of love. And before the conversation was over, the father was asking him for money. Asking the one that called. You don't always get love back like, it's a risk. But you know what? That man did the right thing. The love was in his control, not in the recipient's, the way they're going to love you back. Love is not a mere feeling. Number 3, although feelings often come, it's a decision of your will. Number 4, obedience is a demonstration of your love. If you love me, Jesus said, you'll keep my commandments. Again, I've had people say to me, someone was living an immoral life, and I was talking to them about it, and they got mad at me and said, are you saying God doesn't love me? And I said, no, I'm saying you don't love God. Because if you love Him, you'll keep His commandments. Is that too hard? You're not smiling. You're not laughing. You're getting a little under the collar. Hey, by the way, I'm quoting God. Okay? You always kill the messenger, but I'm telling you, I'm quoting God. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. If you don't keep my commandments, you're not showing love to me. And this is my first commandment, that you love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And if you love Him, you'll obey Him because you have a relationship with Him. It's not a game where you can stretch the boundaries of His grace. The enemy is out to destroy your life. Beware. These times are not easy times to live in. And if you're half-stepping, there's a lot that can happen that's not good. Love casts out fear. It's hard to fear something you love. Number 6, love has to be authentic. It needs to really be coming from our heart. Number 7, the love of God is to control us. That's the only way you can get through things sometimes. What should I do here? What shouldn't I do? Help me, Lord. And then in Corinthians, he says, without love, I am nothing. That's difficult to accept, but it's true. Bring up 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and do not have love, I become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Those are some pretty big statements there about all faith. I mean, greater than Elijah, greater than Moses. I mean, greater than Peter and Paul. All knowledge, smarter than Solomon, and then all the people we know through history, Einstein and Leonardo. You're smarter than all those people. If I have all of these things, if I have these gifts that I can just read your mail when I talk to you, I can do anything. I'm just really good at what I do. But I don't have love, I'm nothing in his eyes. And if I do all these wonderful things, you know, I'm a philanthropist. I just gave away $1 billion. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. And I didn't just give away $1 billion, by the way. But it profits me nothing if what I did wasn't out of love. So here we are, and he says at the end of Corinthians 13, he says, love never fails, and God is love. So, I think in raising my voice a minute ago, that wasn't me, that was God, okay. It really felt like God was saying to me and to us, we really do need to be beware. Not paranoid. Say that with me, would you please? Not paranoid. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the spiritual life around us, the sphere that you live in. I read a lot, and I read about politics and all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going out there. It's important. We have an important election coming up and all of that. But just in Kevin's sphere, where I walk, where I touch people, the dry cleaners, the gym, or some of you when we get together, it's in that area that I need to operate in love and in understanding. What am I going to give back to the Lord? What are you going to give back to the Lord? He says, I shall lift up the cup of salvation and call upon the name of the Lord. Your very existence this morning is because of him. Everything you've got, your understanding, your skills, your abilities, are from him. Maybe we forget that too often. He's ultimate reality. And our goal, the goal of what we as Christians are trying to do, is to be ambassadors of reconciliation and see people come back to the Lord. And he will do this. He's done it in my life. He's done it in your life. Maybe someone here this morning, there's been a lot of forgetfulness. And by the way, he's not just the man upstairs. He's the Son of God. He's the Lion from the tribe of Judah. He's the bright morning star. He's Lord of Lords and King of Kings. I just hope the man upstairs gets me through the pearly gates. Good luck. He wants you to know him now. He loves you. He loves you whether you love him or not. He's the same. He's stable. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He was involved in all of your past. He saw what happened. He's with you right now, and wherever you're going, he's already there. The Lord's table points to the future. recommitting with anticipation to his call and purpose. We're told to examine ourselves. We need to say, is there something in my life that's not right? And deal with it. I can't do that for you. All of us stand at equal footing at the foot of the cross. Billy Graham and you stand at the foot of the cross. He's in heaven now. All pastors, all great singers, all great writers, all Christians that we admire and know through history, all of them essentially stand at the foot of the cross. All 24 elders in heaven bowed down to the King. What a gift we have. I don't know what he's going to do in your life, but I know that whatever he's going to do, you're going to need him. And I guess I can confess sins. Yesterday I went to the gym, and then I went in the car, and my car was dead. And I said, praise the Lord. I said, I can't say. Oh no. And I was getting ready to go to my grandson's football game, and I couldn't go. And then I called AAA in this garage all by myself, sitting there, and number, could you give me the address? No, I don't know where I am. Well, we have to have an address. I said, okay. So I walk across. I go through this whole thing. I would say if you were there, if you were grading your pastor, you probably would have given me a D-. I passed. But this is life, isn't it? Isn't this life, these kinds of things? The guy that came was real good. He said, we'll test the battery. I said, great. I just want to pop it and get it going. He said, ooh, I'm not getting any mags, or whatever it is. He's going, look over here. And I'm looking at this contraption. I don't know what it means. He's going, see that? I said, what's that mean? He said, it means your battery's kaput. And I said, well, do you have another one with you? He said, hold on. Yeah, I got one in the truck that will do it. I said, okay, so I sat in the car another almost 15 minutes. I thought he had been kidnapped. And I came out, and he goes, I'm sorry, when you get a new battery, I have to fill out all this paperwork. And so what turned into, I got a D- over an F+. But what it is, listen, let's laugh at ourselves in the right way. I'm talking about serious things, but we can laugh at ourselves saying, oh, man. But we're still sober of spirit. We're still aware that we're fighting powers and principalities. We're still aware that we're walking in God. And so it's this journey is life, and life more abundantly. It is, it's just good. Enjoy it. And let's enjoy the Lord. Let's to worship God and enjoy him forever. All of the Westminster Confession.
What are you turning away? Open the eyes of the blind. There's no one like. There's none like you. Into the darkness to shine. Out of the ashes we rise. There's no one like. There's none. Our God is greater. no one